so that they still continue to do their house church ministry, but they still can learn house church ministry through you. Not just teaching, but also through your example. And in fact, that is very good. So you can get a feedback from how they are doing. That is, in fact, we call village meeting, which we mentioned earlier today, that your shepherd continue to have house church meeting, house church gathering, but you can also have a house church meeting with your shepherd on a regular basis so that you can get a feedback what's going on in their house church, whether they are doing well, whether they have a challenge and difficulty or not. I think that's probably I want to encourage you, and especially which thing that I mentioned before the break, that through the pilot house church, it is absolutely important for you to have time to do the relational evangelism. Let me explain to you what I mean by, although I will explain to you tomorrow in detail. But here, when you have a pilot house church with your shepherd couple, and try to, or rather encourage them, try to make a list of the non-believers in VIP. And then to help them how to approach and those VIP and with a prayer. Then as a pilot house church together and pray for those VIP and take some action to reach out them, bring them to your pilot house church. So your shepherd can learn the process of how to bring VIP from the outside of house church to inside the house church, from inside the house church to also receiving Jesus meeting or living life Bible study. And that process, something that they cannot learn unless you can experience together. Are we together? So that part is not written on the manual. So I want to encourage you to do so. Tomorrow, most of the time I'm emphasizing, tomorrow morning I have a lecture until the lunchtime. I will really explain things that I mentioned in detail tomorrow. Okay, so that is a pilot house church. Let's move on. The page 18. Page 18D. Reevaluate the purpose of existing committee and meetings. What does it mean by that? When you start the house church ministry, especially 3 axes, for Sunday corporate worship, you don't have to change much because you used to have a Sunday service. One major change would be that is Bible study and a weekly house church meeting. Now, let's say you have an existing meeting. So probably you have different meetings during the week, right? That is ministry. So now you're adding on the 3 axes, especially the Bible study and weekly house church meeting. Maybe you may have a shepherd meeting, like I mentioned, that pilot house church with a shepherd, which means they're requiring more time of your lay leaders and your time as well. Now, you are adding more ministry meeting to your existing meeting. And you need to evaluate. That's why manual said reevaluate your committee and your existing meeting. Why? Practically speaking, the most of you work from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day from Monday to Friday. You don't have time to do all those ministry, am I right? So you have to evaluate, what should I keep it essentially, what should I let it go? Otherwise, you'll burn out. Are we together? So from today onward, during the break time and lunch time, when you reflect on this matter, during the break time, I had a good chat with Pastor Francis. And we are actually sitting just for a few minutes under the tent upstairs. And I asked her, are you reflecting on the seminar you are learning? He said, yes, I'm reflecting on it. So likewise, during the seminar, yes, you can have a fellowship with other pastors. But also take some time to reflect on what you learn. That's very important, especially for this. Now, if you decide and you are really sold out to the house church ministry, you want to add weekly house church meeting or other house church meeting, then what about, could I manage other meeting that I have already? Or committee? Do I need this committee while I have already shepherds who are my leaders? So you need to have a meeting with the shepherd, then you still have a meeting with the elders, a meeting with somebody, this committee, that committee, other committee. Will you manage it? Practically speaking. So therefore, you need to reevaluate what are the meetings slowly. You cannot say just simply, one of the pastors say he wants to resolve just close the meeting, some of the meetings. So he approached the man who in charge of the men's meeting. Say, brother, from next week, the meeting that you're leading will be closed. Don't do that. Intention is good, but the method was not wise. Yeah, approach. You need to have a consultation. You need to call the leaders. You can, first of all, you can think about what are the meeting, what are the committee that must go away in order to have a house church ministry, right? Then, I suggest you need to have a time of consultation with your leaders, especially leaders of different meeting and committee. Listen, you're going to be a shepherd of my shepherd. Anyway, you still remain my leader, and as you do the shepherding work. But the meeting that you're leading, I don't think you can manage. You know, the shepherding work is demanding a lot. Your time, your energy, you need to look up to your members. That's your ministry. But you still want to manage the other meeting? I'm not too sure whether you can balance your life. You cannot manage all those of meetings that you are involving, and also your family. What about your work and your family? How will you manage your time? So just consulting them, with them, and also explain the why part. Sometimes we don't explain why part. Then people get offended. They get hurt. That's the communication. Are we together? So please reevaluate your committee and your existing meeting, which is not necessarily to benefit to the house church ministry. You see, now at the moment, I know that this is a very sensitive area that I mentioned, especially on Friday issue. You have an overnight prayer on Friday that going into midnight. But in my view, Friday probably better time to have a weekly house church meeting, because weekly house church meeting, and this you need between 3 and 5 hours in order to really share and eat together, have a deep fellowship. And if you have a house church meeting, just 1.5 hour, maybe 1 hour time, you just do the meeting. You are not fellowshipping. You are not really building a relationship. I don't know how, yesterday we are discussed about, but you say the Tuesday better for you. Yeah, yesterday that's what you said. So, but however, you have a already existing overnight prayer. I cannot say you cannot have, because that's your probably many members of your house church that value that overnight prayer so much, as far as I understand. Because in our Korean church in the past, we also have an overnight prayer on Friday, like you have. I don't know, maybe you are influenced by Yonggi Cho. So, what we did, we are explaining them why we have to do it. So think about how you're going to do it. All right? So your focus on the house church ministry is very important, and to set the tone for your leaders to focus on house church ministry. If you do not transform, if you do not change or reestablish your ministry, then your leaders may not follow you. So, oh, my pastor, okay, he really put the focus on our church ministry, that your leader can see that. If you do not put your energy and effort and commitment on our church ministry, then they wouldn't do so. Even if you do a lot of commitment or sacrifice, yet sometimes the leader may not follow. But if you don't do that, there is a very less chance your leader can follow. So it's a lot of things have to do with your leadership and your exemplary leadership. Amen? Right. And E, page 18, choose a long-term and short-term church management system. The management system, you can separate shepherding ministry and operation ministry. Shepherding ministry is done by shepherd and village leaders. Operational ministry could be done by deacons and elders. What does it mean by that? If you look at the church, there is a shepherding ministry, basically to have house church meeting. Shepherd is busy with their house church. But at the same time, church has another practical ministry. Like what? Accounting, isn't it? Administration, right? And then the different team to prepare the Sunday corporate worship, right? The medias, ushers, all those people also part of that operational practical ministry. So shepherding ministry is one hand for house church, but in order to have a Sunday corporate worship, you need to have other people to be involved operating this ministry. So as manual suggests, shepherd and village leader, they are the one that focus on shepherding ministry. But those deacons and even elders, they can be also involved. They can be involved, not also, they can be involved in operational ministry. Now, sometimes the shepherd also can be part of operational ministry. However, I wouldn't recommend that you overload it on the shepherd with many things. Otherwise, shepherd will say, no, I can't manage our church with so many things. Are you with me? So in your management system, that you should have operational ministry on the left and the shepherding ministry on the right. Maybe elders and deacons, they can still involve operational ministry, then they can also do shepherding work if they are able to do so. But do not force every shepherd to do the operational ministry. It must be voluntarily to be done. If you push the older shepherd to do the operational ministry, they also may not focus on their house church ministry. The manual explains about what I said. Now, F on the page 18. The best way to establish the house church ministry is to transition the entire church into house church ministry. What does it mean by that? Some people say, well, Pastor, I hear what you're saying, to have a house church meeting once a week. But we cannot have. Maybe we can have once or 2 weeks or once a month. Then my response would be, if you do not have house church meeting once a week, you're not going to change back. Once they are used to have once or 2 weeks, once a month, they don't want to really come back and to have house church meeting once a week. No way. The problem is once or 2 weeks, once a month, people not necessarily come every time that you have a house church meeting. So if they're going to miss the once or 2 weeks, they only can maybe come to the house church meeting once a month. Although house church meeting is once or 2 weeks. Once 2 weeks. Imagine that if you have a house church meeting once a month, there's a good chance some of them, they only come to the house church meeting once or 2 months. You see how it goes. If you have a once a week, then still some people, they just show up themselves once or 2 weeks or once or 3 weeks. And that's what is happening. So I want to encourage you that do not compromise also the biblical principle that church gather together and it's once a week. When you choose to transition this way, the presiding and senior pastor heart for and commitment to the house church will be demonstrated. You will experience the less pain compared to the pain you will experience by making incremental change. What does it mean by incremental change? Maybe you try to change or transition your typical church to a house church partially. And not only partially, but also incremental. And some of them you transition, others you don't. Then, in the future, that when you want to do house church ministry properly, and you have more problem and trouble, or you may experience that, hey, house church ministry doesn't work. Many pastors, they come back to me, hey, house church ministry is not for our church. Okay, I hear you, but my response was that, did you implement house church ministry principle in your local church according to guideline and manual that I present to you? Then answer was, well, here and there I try. So, which means they did not implement and apply house church ministry principle and as much as they should. They didn't. They didn't do that. And they say house church ministry didn't work for us. You wouldn't know whether house church ministry worked for your church unless you completely implement it. Okay, like for instance, now this day we have a Ugandan food, my team, myself. I cannot comment the food of Uganda or the food that we are receiving unless I taste every single thing of it, isn't it? Am I right? I cannot just comment on the Ugandan food when I just eat only some of them. Right? Likewise, you cannot say that house church ministry doesn't work for your church unless you try every single thing that we presented to you. Then you come back to us, okay, I tried this, I tried that, I tried this and that. Therefore, maybe it still doesn't work. Then it's really that I can take it to point. But before you do that, please try your best, implement as much as you can. Hopefully that completely. Now, page 19 on the G, even if you have transition partially at first, make it your goal to transition entire church eventually. So your goal for transitioning is that, what? Entire church to be transitioning. Here's a manual suggests, even if a church is transition partially, operate the church as if the whole church has been transition. Do not allow any meeting to take place during the time when the weekly house church meet. Have a weekly house church to a special program either on Wednesday or during the Sunday corporate worship. Consider those who have not chosen weekly house church as if they were candidates for evangelism a certain time period. Reach out to them by inviting them to weekly house church. The presiding or senior pastor can assemble those who have not chosen a weekly house church and start a weekly house church with them. When number increase, appoint a shepherd and turn it over to him or her. Repeat this until the entire church is transitioned into the house church ministry. Earlier I mentioned that reevaluate your committee and existing meeting. Why? Because you as a senior pastor set the example to focus on our church ministry, and your leader follow your example. Now, here, some pastors, they have a special meeting on Friday. Let's say if you have a weekly house church meeting on Friday, then you also try to hold something and going on Friday. Then your shepherd divide. Am I attending the special meeting our pastor wanted to meet, or maybe am I going to serve the house church? You're sending out a confusing message here. So therefore, we are keep on saying to our pastor, do not allow other meetings to compete with your house church ministry activity. If you allow other meetings and other activity compete with your house church ministry cannot survive. It's not wise. Even Sunday corporate worship. When you have a Sunday corporate worship, do not try to allow some other ministry happening in a Sunday corporate worship. And I would discourage you to do so, for you to implement house church ministry completely well. Again, this manual comment that senior pastor can assemble those who have not chosen a weekly house church and start a weekly house church with them. In other words, let's say everybody chosen a house church with a shepherd. Then those who have not decided to choose a house church with a shepherd, what you going to do? Hello? Okay. Am I on? Okay, thank you. So those people who wander around, who do not know where to turn, but they haven't got a house church, then senior pastor couple consider to those people. Are you with me? So again, the senior pastor is the last couple that to take that most difficult task. That's your job. That's your responsibility. In fact, in our South African context, quite a few times that some shepherd, they're giving up their ministry. So the house church remain without shepherd. What's going to do? Should we close this house church? No? Why no? Sorry? Okay. As I said yesterday, house church is a church, right? Unless that each members of a house church express with the reason why they want to close, then you as a senior pastor will seriously consider and pray. But if they are still willing to remain as a house church, although there is no shepherd available, that doesn't mean that the church the house church would be closed automatically. Then in that case, you need to find a shepherd for that house church. If you don't find it, you as a senior pastor couple, for a while, you need to be a shepherd of that house church that do not have a shepherd. Until there's such a time that they have their own shepherd. So that's the case. I think in that case that we have quite often and different even part of the world. And then like I mentioned that those who do not know where to turn, you can have a house church with them until that house church to grow, and they can have, or you can identify intern and to take over that house church, then you can be released from that responsibility. Okay. So far, any question? Yeah, I'm just trying to speed up because I have an aim to finish today with certain things. Yeah, that's what I mentioned, that transition the entire church, demonstrate your heart and commitment, less pain, incremental change, avoid failure because of a clash with the existing ministry and meeting. What I discover all the time, the same issue over and over again, the focus on how church minister the issue all the time with the pastors and the shepherd. Pastors are too busy with so many things. It's very difficult for you to cut it down. Maybe in the seminar you agree with me, okay, I need to cut it down, this and that, but it's difficult to cut it down. Even pastors in South Africa, this time I'm going to have a meeting with them. One of the main subjects that I'm going to address would be focus on house church ministry. Cut it down, unnecessary ministry that has nothing to do with the house church ministry. Right. Let's look at the page 19, starting house church ministry, preparation period. Spend enough time in preparation. Begin in a house church ministry after spending enough time in preparation. It is better for a pastor not to make statement on his own about starting house church, but to make a statement through the leadership team and after making an official decision on it. Which I mentioned already, please be wise not to just make a statement. Do not drop the bomb during the corporate worship. Rather, go through the process of consultation with your leaders. The problem could arise if preparation time is too short. People could have resisted house church because they don't understand it. If you start too soon, the risk is to appoint a leader as a shepherd who don't understand house church ministry. If you fail the first time, it will be difficult to try again in the future. If you choose shepherd to do the house church ministry quickly or without having enough time, if the shepherd is not going to make it ministry, then that will be discouraging other shepherds in other churches, other house churches. Church member could get tired if preparation time is too long. The people will lose interest. Those who are eager to start the weekly house church, it is best to start with them. If possible, it is best to imitate a church who has mastered the house church ministry. You can lose the essential of house church ministry when you try too hard to make it fit your church situation. When you do house church ministry, exactly like the model church, for 2-3 years you will not have to reinvent the wheel or make unnecessary mistakes. If the presiding senior pastor and church have a specific mission God has given them, pursue it after house church ministry is well established. Okay. I just read through it. What I'm trying to present here, in your preparation, do not be too long, do not be too short. That's basically saying. The time, spend time enough and model the church which doing the house church you are. Either Christ, Voice of Christ Church, or other churches, or other house churches in the abroad. They can be a good example to you, including the the God's Family Church, the pastor you are pastor. Leaders. Page 20. Appoint only those leaders as elders who serve as a shepherd and are exemplary in their conduct and generosity. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you, how many of you, just put your hand up. You have elders in the church. Before you start the house church, all right? Now, those elders are, if you're doing the house church ministry, those elders are shepherd or not? Not all of them. So what is your intention for those elders who are not shepherd? Mm. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Now, do you, in a church in Uganda, Bishop, do you have elders? That elders, once you are elder, is forever elder? Is a permanent job or permanent appointment? Yeah, but what I'm saying is that now that someone is appointed as an elder. That elder is going to be forever elder, remain elder in the church? So do you have a term? Denomination. Okay, situation. When you appoint the elder, that elder remain forever? Yeah, I'm talking about not elderly person. I'm talking about elders in the church. Yeah, about the ministry. I'm talking about ministry. Yeah. That's what we are talking about now. So now, those putting the term, church, you? Pastor? You have a term? You think, I'm an elder in the church, right? And put their shoulder up like this. And then, hey, you know what? That shepherd job is too much for me. Hey, I cannot serve. I cannot wash the dish. Tonight you're going to experience. So come from patriarchal society. Some of the things that our church encourages you to do is foreign to them. And shepherd is the one that, those guys do not. I'm an elder in the church, If they are in a permanent position, how are you going to work with the person to be a shepherd in the future? That is an issue you may face. But if you have a term, like a 3 years, 4 years term, you have to wait until they go forward. Are you causing the big problem in the future? That person can divide your church. Are you with me? So, what you going to do then? Those who have elders who are permanently there. There's no way you have to work with them. It's humble you. That elder can humble you. You just continue to serve them, love him. Serve them. And then also just give it other job. Maybe that person do not want, right? Okay, let's move on. Okay. Let's look at must be people not loading it over to okay. That's the 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 3. If you do not have, okay, I'll come back. If you do not have elders so far, that's good news for you that first of all, you just groom elders in the church. It depends on what in your church. Eldership mean that you have an elder system in the church. The leadership structure that say that you have elders and deacons. How many of you? Just put your hand up. So Bishop, you don't have eldership here? Voice of Christ? Sorry? Both of ministers, that representing the elders. So they are elders, although you don't call them elder. That's right. Elders impact pastor, yeah, right. Okay, thank you. And other church? Yes, you have elders. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sorry? Can you just, microphone? So people can hear too,
function here, but the offices are the same offices. They are the people that will consult with, that will sit down with the decision makers, the people that will advise the advisory team.
Pastor,
Yes.
the answer is that it depends on denominations.
Okay.
Well, like them. Actually, I wanted to say something. Let me give the microphone. Yeah.
But it's going to be hard for some people to understand because, like for PAG, for house church, which is the best way to go, house church, and those elders who could not be shepherds, they became hosts in the churches, in the house churches. And we are moving on with them like that. But as per my sister, she said that they are permanent elders. Yes, in PAG we have that. And they are like board members. They help to govern. Is that you become a minister because of the ministry activities that you represent in the church. For example, maybe a youth director, a women coordinator. Yeah, that is all we do.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to touch on how you govern your church. That's not my subject, okay?
Right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Right.
I'm not going to touch on how you govern your church, all right? That's, again, your denominational matters, right? However, what I'm trying to touch on, if you have an elder system, I'm talking about elder, the biblical elder I'm talking about, whether that you call a group of the pastor or board of pastor or board of elder, it depends on how you call. It's up to you. But I'm talking about, in general, if you have an elder in the church, obviously that elder is a mature and also got a ministry skill and recognized. So as a leader, I'm talking about leadership. But some of the leaders may not completely sold out house church. And they don't want to be a shepherd, right? If they're going to be all the shepherd, no problem. If they can follow your conviction. But I'm talking about if one of your leaders do not want to be a shepherd or do not want to be part of a house church ministry, how are you going to do that? That's my question. I mentioned that although that person do not want to be a shepherd, do not fight against that person. As I say, continue to serve that person, love that person, also give the other ministry opportunity to do so that that person can feel, sense that I'm still important in this church. If you don't treat well that person can cause a problem and may divide your church. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Just deal with that person wisely. Okay? The other thing is that if you do not have elders or prominent leader in your church, and you can groom that those people to the shepherd work. In other words, appoint a shepherd, doing the shepherd work well, give a chance to be a village leader, then you can consider that person to be an elder in your church. As far as I understand, from the biblical perspective, elders are your core leaders and to work with. So therefore, you cannot appoint anybody, especially in a house church ministry context. You need to groom them from the beginning to members of our church, become a shepherd, from shepherd to village leader. Then you actually test that person, whether this person really can do the house church ministry with me as an elder, right? Then you can appoint that person as an elder. All right? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reaction. Let's look at the leader, being not a leader, and that's the second point. Is it preferable to appoint male leaders? Appointment of female shepherd must only be done as an exception. The following basis exist. Unbelieving men have a difficult time responding to female leadership. When men exercise spiritual leadership, female and society become holy and stable. If a woman has excellent leadership quality, has an unbelieving but understanding husband, or is single, or she may be appointed as a shepherd. Okay, this is a scenario that you may face. There is a woman, whether married or single, but very devoted and willing to serve as a shepherd. What would you say? What would you do? A single or married woman? Married woman is more complicated because a married woman whose husband is not a believer. What would you do? Anybody has any idea? By the way, that we are not saying that we encourage to appoint a male person as a shepherd in general. That doesn't mean that we are, gender preference. That's not a case. No, that's not the case. So anybody to respond? No? Well, I think I know this is again denominational issue. Some of the church that I know, they are against the woman leadership. Therefore, they don't want to appoint a female person as a shepherd at all. Sorry? That I don't think there is a problem. I have no problem to appoint female person as a shepherd, especially a single person. However, the married couple is more complicated. The married couple whose husband may be a believer or may not be a yes. So if the unbeliever case, with consultation with depends on your belief and your preference. So, in my view, that we can still appoint the female person if husband says so. With the consultation, we have cases in the South Africa. The Indian lady that became a shepherd, but whose husband was Muslim. And this pastor will talk to the husband, is it okay for your wife to be a shepherd? The shepherd is over A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And sometimes people coming to your home and hosting the house church there, are you okay with that? So wife is a Christian, husband is a Muslim. And this husband, although he was Muslim, but he graciously said, okay, you know what? My wife wants to do it. Let her have a house church in my place. So that was our case in South Africa. but I don't know your case here. So that is my view. However, if husband is become a Christian, right? And then also not believing husband, if you have a non-believing husband, but who are still new believers, then you can see that, okay, maybe for now you can appoint female person as a shepherd. But bear in mind, as the husband would be ready or growing, I would suggest to you that to change the shepherdship from wife to husband for the sake of their marriage and also the leadership issue related to that particular society. Why? Some of the society that I come from, not I come from, but I've been experienced, they have an issue with the woman leadership in that society, particular culture, especially Botswana. So, because very strong patriarchal society. So when the woman become a leader there, all women are coming to the church in house churches, but not men. Because some of the men has an issue with the woman leadership, unfortunately. So you have to be sensitive of who are the people that you are dealing with. So it depends. Again, biblically, it's not cut and dry. Not cut and dry. So you need to look at the context, whichever way is better for your context. Okay, how many minutes do I have? 3 minutes, okay, thank you. Now, the formation of the weekly house church, that can be a large subject. And we think the formation of the weekly house church, the principle that I just mentioned, that basically the principle of the formation of the house church, that this is, you can read your manual. We always give a choice, which I mentioned yesterday. So when you launch out weekly house church with your shepherd, first of all, you have to train who? Your potential shepherd, right? And then have what? Sample and pilot house church to go through. So your shepherd come and get training, knowledge. They get trained through the knowledge. But knowledge is not enough. Therefore, you need to do sample house church with your potential shepherd so they can experience what house church is. Then, when you have a D-date to launch your house church, then you consult with your shepherd. Then you can put it there, okay, you have 10 shepherds, you put the 10 of them on the wall. I'm just taking the example. And you encourage your members, please choose a shepherd in a house church that you want to be. You give the choice to the people to choose the shepherd in house church. However, you need to give the guideline. When they want to choose and write down which house church or which shepherd you want, they only write that to only the senior pastor. Nobody else. Because if someone knows that they choose other shepherd, not me, then they don't feel good. You know what I mean? So no shepherd knows who choose them. Right? But we still need to give the choice to the members to choose. Why? Later on, they say, no, Pastor, I cannot go to that house church. I don't want to be there. I want to rather go to another house church. Then you may say that, wasn't that true? You are the one to choose that house church. But if you choose a house church for them, they said, Pastor, you choose that house church for me. Therefore, you are responsible. Are you with me? So please, let them choose house church for themselves. Okay, thank you. Lastly, if many people choose one house church, too many people, then you as a senior pastor coordinate that. So you give the option. What is the first option you have? Okay, I want a particular shepherd. What is the B? So you give 2 or 3 options. So that if many people choose one house church, then you go to second option so that you can coordinate, spread out. That's a senior pastor job. You still coordinate, but let them choose. Lastly, especially in this context, as a senior pastor, encourage them to choose a house church and shepherd nearby your home. If you're going to meet in the evening, there's no transportation. If you choose a house church,